Bien, seguimos en FOA 2019 y de verdad que súper contentos. Ya Erika Valenzuela se integra a este staff y estamos entrevistando a los grandes protagonistas de toda esta historia, agradeciendo a nuestro público que se va sumando, nos va escribiendo a través de las distintas vías y dándonos su retroalimentación de todo lo que está ocurriendo en el evento más importante de marketing y publicidad, Erika, de nuestro país.
Así es, y bueno, en este momento vamos a tener otro invitado de lujo, en este caso a Julius Van De Laar, que ya nos ha visitado anteriormente en FOA, y para los que no los conocen, solamente le voy a decir algo, que él fue uno de los responsables de que ganara Barack Obama en su momento, con esa campaña que para mí presentó un antes y un después de lo que era la comunicación política, basado mucho en lo que fueron estrategias digitales contundentes en ese momento y con lo cual Barack Obama logró ganar.
Yo quería iniciar, Erika, preguntándole a Julius. Julius, in Latin America, why the politicians don't have any kind of successful in social network? Why?
Well, I am no expert
Okay.
on Latin American politics. I will stipulate that up front. But I will say is this. I have come to see, when we look at all the issues that are taking place all across the world. Just a minute ago, there was somebody on stage talking about the climate movement with Greta, right?
Okay.
Who just went to the United Nations in Paris. We see Brexit happening. We see all the things that are happening with Donald Trump and the issues right now surrounding Joe Biden and a possible impeachment inquiry. We're seeing the protests in Hong Kong. So the point that I'm trying to make is there's such tremendous upheaval in the world right now. And I think there's something that everything and everyone has in common, sort of the old-fashioned way of the establishment. Those days are over. Right?
Okay.
And we're seeing a concrete shift from those who always have been in power to the days and the times of the underdog.
Okay.
I mean, nobody thought that Donald Trump had any chance winning in 2016.
It was a surprise.
Right? Nobody thought that Barack Obama back in 2008 had a chance of winning, right?
Exactly.
Nobody thought that a 16-year-old girl from Sweden with an autism syndrome could lead a global climate march where the President of the United States and everyone else is talking about, right? So I feel like we're in times of the underdog. But for politics and for political communications, that also means that you have to have a message. It's not enough to just show up anymore. Every candidate, doesn't matter whether they're in Europe, in the United States, or in Latin America, they have to be able to answer two fundamental questions. And I don't think that's just true for politicians, but I think that's true for every business leader or anyone in public life. You have to be able to answer two questions. And question number one is, why me? And question number two is, why now? So if you can't answer those two questions, why am I doing and why am I best positioned to do this right now? And why now? Why is this the right moment to actually get active and do something? You're not going to be very successful in these days.
And I think you're telling me that people nowadays are very interested in what a politician really believes,
Right.
and is he going to do about that?
Right.
And in the political communication, what is the challenge right now with the audience?
Well, I mean, I do feel like, again, we see this all over the world where the establishment is just sort of getting kicked out. And people are saying, you're not hearing us anymore. I don't necessarily think it's a left or a right thing. Again, I cannot speak with certainty about Latin America, but when I look at most conflicts all around the world, it's not necessarily a left and right thing, but it's a top-down versus bottom-up thing. And so, again, the critical thing is that you articulate what you stand for, what you believe in, and that message obviously needs to be authentic. So you can't just make it up, and you can't just tell people, I'm here to make things better for you. You have to make it concrete, and I think a lot of politicians, at least in the last couple of years, have failed to articulate exactly why they're running for president or for Congress or whatever elected office they're running for.
Erika, hacemos una pequeña pausa para explicarles que la primera pregunta que hacía se dirigía a por qué los políticos latinoamericanos, estamos traduciendo, no son exitosos en redes sociales. Julius nos decía que él no es experto en la parte de Latinoamérica, pero hay algo que converge en cualquier político, que debe tener un mensaje en redes sociales.
Así es.
Que se debe,
bueno, en general.
En general.
Y realmente ahí venía la segunda pregunta, que si realmente, es decir, las personas están ahora mismo interesadas en que tú, como político, tú sigas una causa, en que tú crees.
Sí.
Y demostrarlo. Y lo que Julius nos conversaba, que aunque él no es experto en temas políticos latinoamericanos, nos contaba que con su experiencia él ha notado que sí, que realmente la audiencia está muy pendiente de qué tú crees realmente, claro. Y no es el mensaje tradicional al que estamos acostumbrados, sino que tú tienes que dejarme dicho de verdad qué tú vas a hacer, por qué yo y por qué ahora.
Julius, Facebook have a lot of problem with
trust,
credibility.
Right.
Do you think Facebook is a good social network to make a message for the politicos?
Well, I mean, it always depends on who's your key audience.
Exactly.
How do you reach them? And obviously, again, in most places all over the world, Facebook still continues to be the predominant tool in order to reach people, because most people are still on Facebook. But I don't think it's necessarily the medium that's absolutely critical. Look, we cannot not communicate. I think that's the most critical thing to understand. If we don't tell our own message, if we don't articulate the challenges that you, I, or you as a voter face, right? People will start interpreting whatever they want to see in your candidacy. And so I think, again, this is not only true for politicians, but also for every business leader. If you don't tell the story where you came from and where you want to go, if you don't articulate the obstacle where you support people in achieving and overcoming that obstacle, people will ask questions, well, why is it that you actually want to be the leader right now? Is it just for your own good? Is it for your own benefit? Or are you actually doing something for me? And I think that's the challenge. So there's one sentence in politics that I always remember, which I think is the most critical sentence, which is, you can't solve a problem that nobody is aware of, right? You can't solve a problem that nobody's aware of. So that means also that if you want to run for something, or you want to change something in your community, in the business world, wherever, you have to probably sell the problem that you solve and not just the solution, right? You got to sell the problem that you solve and not the solution. And I think most politicians and most people in business will always sell the solution. They say, well, we've got a great product. Look at this product, right? It'll help you do this and do that and do that. And the way we build it is absolutely fantastic. Our car drives faster than your car, right? But I don't think that's how it works anymore. I think we have to sell the problem that we solve, and we need to go out and we need to articulate why it is that we're actually joining and why you should join our movement too. And then you can take it to Facebook, you can take it to Instagram, you can take it to Snapchat, it doesn't matter. Everywhere. But the message has to be clear, loud.
Okay. Le preguntábamos, Erika, si él pensaba, nuestro invitado Julius Van De Laar, quien es experto en temas de marketing político y comunicación, le preguntábamos si pensaba que Facebook era una red social segura para la comunicación de una estrategia o de un político. Él nos decía que eso va a depender del mensaje, el target y de la audiencia. Va a depender de todo eso, y que las personas dentro de este mensaje sientan que el político tiene la forma de cómo va a resolver los problemas.
Y dice que también tienes que transparentar el problema, no decir que es la solución, sino también que sea un problema que la gente reconozca, o sino tú primero explicar cuál es el problema y lo que vas a solucionar. Y realmente eso es uno de los puntos más importantes. Otra cosa, él dijo que la comunicación tiene que estar clara y no dejarse prestar a interpretaciones.
A interpretaciones, ni que estoy intentando vender una idea como si fuera un producto, sino sencillamente que tú eres parte de la solución de los problemas.
Así es. Julius, I wanted to ask you about a topic that everybody's talking about, fake news.
Fake news.
You know that, I know that you are in your conference, you're going to talk about this communication that is in a light speed or almost.
Right.
And what is the challenge with political communication and fake news nowadays, because you have a message, a clear message that you want to give to the audience, but then you can maybe it can you can receive a fake news.
Right. So first of all, I would argue that fake news was always part of communications, right?
It's not new.
I think it's not new, right? There's always been fake news. However, obviously, everyone can enter the arena now and distribute fake news. And of course, we've seen this in the 2016 election with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, with the Russians interfering in the election and spreading fake news, which I think is proven at this point. But this doesn't just apply to politics. This is true for everyone. You know, if you run a business and you have an IPO coming up, you have a new product that you want to launch, you build towards that momentum and to that day where you want to launch your product, and all of a sudden new information comes out. Might be true, might not be true, but people are starting to ask questions. It's a big challenge for you. And so I think everyone out there needs to build on their own credibility, right? We need to detect early on where the fake news are coming out, and we actually need to step up and not just say, well, it's fake news, nobody's going to believe it. People will believe it if it's a at least plausible storyline, right? So we're fighting for the narrative, we're fighting for the storyline, and I think, you know, we're talking a lot about the future of advertising. I think it's about trying to control your message as well as possible, and if you see out there that somebody's spreading fake news about you, you need to set the record straight, but I think you also need to go on the offensive and actually explain to people what the real truth is, and probably dismantle the fake news and the reason why they're spreading the fake news on top of it. So again, hoping that it just all just blows away is probably not going to happen. So you need to be able to gear up. You have to have your chance in order, and I think you need to start earlier. You need to position yourself as a leader, as a politician, as a business owner, as a citizen, to make sure that people understand your values, that they have trust in you, that if a crisis ensues, which is ultimately going to happen to every one of us, you're ready to strike back and be forceful, and people believe you when you step up and speak.
Okay. Excelente. Erika Valenzuela preguntaba acerca de cómo trabajar el tema del fake news, es decir, de las noticias falsas en la comunicación política.
Sí, y que si realmente eso está incidiendo, entonces nos comentaba Julius que realmente uno de los pasos primeros que debes de dar es enfrentarlo y ojalá detectar de dónde están viniendo y entonces ir a la ofensiva, es decir, aclarar muy bien lo que es tu mensaje. En el día de hoy, no solamente en la comunicación política, sino cualquier marca o empresa puede ser víctima de fake news, y a todos nosotros nos puede tocar en algún momento una crisis, pero hay que enfrentarla y aclarar el mensaje y estar claro con lo que es la narrativa y el mensaje que tú quieres llevar.
Julius, when the election is close,
right?
We have politicals very active in the social media, social network. How can be the communication with the election is off?
Right.
Because the people think, well, the politics going to talk with me because he want my vote.
Right.
The election is going to pass in a moment.
Right.
How can you communicate after the election?
Well, that's I mean, I think that's a critical question. So, the election is over, you just won, and what are you going to do after that, right?
Yeah.
Are you just going to go back and govern? Are you going to forget about the people who actually brought you into office, right? And I think it's critical that, and I see this in Germany, I see this in Europe all the time. Election takes place. Before the election, every politician has posted photos to Facebook, Instagram, and the day after the election, it's just silence, right? And I think people rightfully get angry. But I think politics, business, it's always a story that you continue to push forward, right?
Yeah.
The election is not the end goal. And I think this is what I want to come back to, what I started earlier. You have to be clear about why you're running for office, why you're actually in the arena. Why me? Why now? And so just getting elected is not the purpose of your campaign. Your purpose is to actually change things. And chances are that if you get elected tomorrow, just because you're elected, it's not all the problems out there is not going to go away. So you need to be able to take people into the mix and say, well, the campaign is just going to continue. Help me push forward. Help me change whatever I stepped up, whatever I got into politics for to change, and not let people all of a sudden, slip away. Because the challenges that we face with climate change, with migration, whatever it might be that you're running for, they're so stark that not one person can solve them. So again, I think it's not just about building a campaign. Smart people will build a movement that will outlast any political campaign, but that will be there in order to pressure other politicians to actually follow through and do the things that you promised when you stood on that campaign trail and gave your stomp speech and said, this all is what we're going to change. So you need to have your backing. You need to build a movement. And I think, of course, social media channels are going to be a great tool to help you keep people engaged. But you should build your strategy not just for Election Day, but well beyond that, actually implementing the politics that you promised.
Bien, le preguntábamos a Julius qué opinaba él sobre el tema de los políticos que conversan mucho con los distintos medios antes de las elecciones, es decir, cuando tienen...
Y con su audiencia.
Y con
exacto,
su audiencia.
Buscando ese voto.
Buscando ese voto. Él nos dice que es una pregunta muy crítica,
muy
buena.
¿Y qué pasa después?
¿Y qué pasa después? ¿Qué se hace después cuando pasan las elecciones? Él nos responde y nos dice que los políticos deben tener una historia que contar luego de pasadas las elecciones y que no se vea que el goal de esta comunicación llegó hasta las elecciones, sino sencillamente que la historia continúa y que siga la comunicación.
Y que parte de la estrategia es crear un movimiento que también continúe. Entonces, eso te ayuda porque ya tienes una comunidad que te ayudó a crear un movimiento.
Claro que sí. Así que, Julius,
I want to make a last question.
Sure.
And it's very briefly. Can you share with us like 3 brief actions for a candidate to reframe a candidate
Reframe
with public opinion? Very briefly.
So I think, again, candidates must be able to answer why me, why now. If you can't answer that, do not get into politics. Every candidate has tremendous weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
Every candidate also has some strength. I think the candidates who are most effective in running campaigns are the ones who are able to turn their weaknesses into their strength. I want to give you an example. In 2016, people were saying Donald Trump is a rich, wealthy, out-of-touch real estate mogul from New York City who has absolutely no idea how the average American is living, right? That was the narrative, right? What do? How did you reframe it? This is how you put it, right? How did you reframe that message? He said, well, look at me. I might be wealthy, but I'm actually going to make you and every one of you wealthy as well, right? So he took that weakness because people were saying, well, you're just wealthy, you don't understand who we are or how we think. He turned that into a strength. The same thing is true for Barack Obama back in 2008. People were saying, well, you're unexperienced. You don't have the credibility or the experience to actually lead a nation that is going through 2 wars and a financial crisis, right? And Barack Obama turned that into a strength where he said, well, but look at all the other people who are running for office. They're all part of the establishment. They're all the people who actually put us into the situation where we got into that crisis, right? So understand what your challenges are, where your strengths are, but good candidates, great candidates, always are able to turn their weaknesses into their strengths.
Exactly. Thank you, Julius. Le estaba preguntando a Julius que me pudiera dar unos consejos sobre cómo realmente se pudiera replantear la figura de un candidato frente a la opinión pública, y él nos deja dicho, primero nos recuerda que ¿por qué yo? ¿Por qué ahora? Y luego nos dice que una de las cosas que funciona es convertir las debilidades en fortalezas. Nos pone el ejemplo de Donald Trump en el momento que era muy criticado cuando era candidato, de que era una persona rica que estaba desconectada de las necesidades del pueblo, y cómo él cambió su discurso a decir, yo también te quiero convertir en una persona rica. Y en el caso de Barack Obama, que le decían que no tenía experiencia, en un momento que era un país que estaba abatido por 2 guerras y tenía situaciones económicas, y digo, sí, pero los otros candidatos fueron los que son parte del establishment y nos trajeron a este punto. Entonces, convertir las debilidades en fortalezas. Excelente, Julius.
Excelente. Conversamos.
Thank you, Julius.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Julius.
Thanks
It's a
so much for
pleasure
having
for
me.
us. Julius Van De Laar, experto en marketing estratégico para la parte política, ha estado con nosotros. Vamos a una pequeña pausa, señores. Recuerden, estamos en FOA en vivo entrevistando a los grandes protagonistas de este día.